Hello, leader. Welcome back to the Fierce Factor podcast. It's your host, Kaeli here, and I have a very special episode for you today. You are about to hear day one of our Spark Leadership Sprint. And I decided to share this with you because in this session, I led a powerful discussion about the current socioeconomic climate, the state of our industry, and the true power of accessing our internal wisdom to step into our greatest potential. Over 5 days, we challenged founders to stop reacting, to step into confident leadership, and to design businesses that truly work for them, the essence of a life first business. If you're serious about leading differently, you can still access every session replay at klcconsultants.com/spark for a limited time. I am going to have access open until August 29th and recordings available through September 7th. So you want to jump in and get access to that ASAP. Over the 5 days, I talk our attendees through our Spark framework. S is strategy, defining your vision and roadmap for growth. P, people, build and inspire a high-performing team. A, alignment, ensure every aspect of your business is working in harmony. R, results, track measurable outcomes to scale your success. And K, knowledge, equip yourself with the tools and insights to lead confidently. My goal is for everybody who goes through these 5 powerful days to leave with a really clear, actionable 90-day plan, the right mindset, and the energy, excitement, passion, and confidence to step into this next era. So I hope you enjoy day one. Without further ado, day one of Spark. Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to Spark. I am so excited to be here with you. My name is Kaeli Lindholm, and you're tuning in for 5 days of some epic transformational experience of walking us through the revolution that I believe we are about to experience, stepping into a new era. I couldn't be more excited to be here with you today. I want to start by inviting you to please introduce yourself as you are coming in here. While we're in a webinar mode, and I'm going to be talking a lot at you today, it's really, really valuable for me to be able to meet you, to see who is here joining us, and to learn more about you and why you're here today so that I can customize this live experience. I can answer your questions, and we can make this as impactful, intimate, and interactive as possible. So as you're coming in, please introduce yourself in the chat. And I would love to know how many years you have been in business, because I'm curious if there are some veterans in here. Maybe there are some what I like to call COVID boomers that decided to start their business during a pandemic. Those are always my favorite. Or for many of you who have been through some of these ups and downs and, economic and political, socio fluctuations, and you can share some of the experiences that you've had coming through, surviving them and coming out stronger than ever. So I'm seeing 15 years, Tiffany in the chat. Wow, congratulations. That is no small feat. We are, you guys, at the precipice of an economic shift that I don't think many business owners we are chatting with today truly are grasping. And if you feel like you're beginning to, I don't know, like lose grip in a way on the system that you've built, whether you've been in business for 15 years, I'm seeing 4 years, 7 years, right? Like it almost doesn't matter how long or how much experience you have. There's something that's happening. I'm hearing women talk to me about, the team feels a little bit misaligned. I feel like I have this really great big vision for the future of where I'm taking this company, but in a way, I feel like I'm dragging my business behind me and it's just not keeping up. Some people are telling me, like, privately, I'm on the edge of burnout. And I feel like where I used to have this really strong grasp of control, I no longer have. So if you're somebody who's feeling some of these things, it's likely because you're already very intuitive and starting to experience the undercurrent of what I believe is our new reality. And it might feel like you're almost putting every single strategic building block in place, but your foundation is feeling, I don't know, like a quicksand, right? Like, wait, I had this totally under control, and for some reason now this is falling out. And And nobody's talking about this. Nobody is talking about the reality that it is such a fragile time for our industry. We've got politics, we've got the economy, AI, private equity. What else? Regenerative medicine, the controversy of the future of filler. We are at the cusp of what many experts believe to be the single most significant transfer of wealth in human history. Okay. So, what I'm saying is, if you are feeling a little unsettled right now, you're not imagining things. This isn't just your instinct, this is our reality. We have an aging population. We are currently witnessing a wave of baby boomers who are starting to pass down their wealth. Hopefully, we'll all end up on the positive side of that, right? This is a generational shift. That means that there are going to be significant transfers of assets to younger generations. And that's really going to play into this concept of making it a pivotal time for financial evolution. By 2030, which is around the corner, by the way, ladies, let's see, about 30% of the US population will be 60 or older, which means we're on the brink of this major wealth transfer. And this group holds approximately 70 trillion in assets. And about 69% of them aim to pass down their wealth, equating to an astounding 59 trillion expected to flow to Gen X and millennials. Do I have any Gen X and millennials in here? I'm actually barely on the cusp of millennialism. It depends. I got to know my audience, whether I'm proud to say that or not. But let's let that sink in here. And then finally, something else I want to call out is private equity is not going away. The med spa and wellness industries are experiencing explosive growth, despite what you may be hearing out there. There is a huge wave of interest from private equity firms who are eager to capitalize on this booming market. So we've got this major wave and influx of cash coming in. Investors are excited to jump in. The global med spa industry is projected to reach nearly 25 billion by the end of this decade. There's so much happening, you guys. Developments in AI, economic fluctuations and uncertainties, the influx of private equity, like we mentioned, integration of aesthetics and wellness. Hands up or yes in the chat if you are currently combining wellness and aesthetics into your business. This is the way of the future, and advancements in technology and regenerative solutions. We are moving so fast. Whew, I can even feel myself talking fast because I feel that energy. We are like on this roller coaster, right, you guys? Lots of yeses in the chats and I'm seeing so many different years in business. So this is going to be an incredible room today. We have women here from just starting businesses to I've seen 15. If you've been in business longer than 15 years, you got a one up here. Let me see. Say hello. How do we keep up? I can't. Stacy says I can't keep up. That is the big question for me. How do we keep up? As small business owners, we are walking on the entrepreneurial balance beam. I ask myself questions as well. And certainly, is it time to save? Is it time to spend? Do I stay in my business earning revenue as a service provider, or do I prioritize building my infrastructure to scale my business so that it can function without me? Do I push on the gas pedal, or do I wait it out until things stabilize? If I don't continue to invest in reinventing myself, will I stay relevant? A yes or a hands up if you've asked yourself one or more of these questions in the past 6 months. These questions flood our subconscious while our team, our clients, our partners, they are all looking to us for what? Answers. So they're quite frankly, some of them counting on us literally for their livelihood. So it kind of feels like, in my mind, like being a brand new mom. Anybody been there, right? A brand new parent or a dog parent is fine too. Where you're like, I have no freaking clue what to do when the baby cries, but I have to do something. And so you have to just really lean into your instincts. I see Tiffany says you have to know your niche. You have to know your stuff. You have to show up and allow the wisdom that you have inside of you to lead the way. And isn't this so true for leadership? When I think of what leadership is, the essence of leadership to me is, having to call out the answers and make decisions when there is not a right one, right? So, how do we respond to this calling in our most confident leadership when we have no crystal ball of what the future will hold? Now, isn't that why we're here today? Someone have the answers. Does anyone have the answer here? Anyone? There's somebody, I know there's someone psychic in here. Tell us what's going to happen. We need the crystal ball, right? I'm partially joking, but here's the thing. While we can't see the future, we can actually see the past with 2020 vision. But I find that highly ambitious women like me and you, we could see the past, but we don't like going back there, right? We have a very hard time turning in that direction, pausing, reflecting, and strategizing from a place of our most sacred wisdom. As Winston Churchill once said, the farther backward you look, the further forward you are likely to see. Today, many of us face challenges that seem daunting. However, if you take a moment to really think back to what you've overcome, you will realize that you have faced tremendous adversities. And guess what? You've emerged stronger every single time. You are stronger than ever. Think back. Let's talk about some of the obvious ones here. Tiffany knows this one well, the 2008 financial crisis. There's story upon story of entrepreneur who experienced complete devastation and rebuilt stronger than ever. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic. Can you guys believe we're like coming up on, what is this, 5 years? Going to be 6 years since then? I feel like it was such a blur and it was then and gone, but it still impacts our vernacular even today. The pandemic forced entrepreneurs to pivot, to innovate, to adapt in ways that I think many of us could have never imagined. I remember practice owners packing up retail products and doing VIP delivery drops on clients' porches, like doing the little toss drop off right onto the porch. We had clients pouring branded candles, starting educational video virtual webinar series. You guys, I'm not joking. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. We were teaching plastic surgeons how to pre-sell surgeries through a Facebook group. I mean, it is like, let's get gritty, right? What I know, ladies, is that we are at our very freaking best when our backs are against the wall and the chips are down. Because guess what? That is when we become resourceful, and that is when we become unstoppable. Adversities test our resolve, and they also showcase our incredible strength and creativity. So I want us to spend these next 5 days channeling these powerful lessons and moving forward. Let's link arms, because it is my mission to ensure that if you are here, if you decided to take your time and sign up for these 5 days with me, if you are in our ecosystem, if you are coming in to be a part of what this movement is, what we are building in the world and in this industry, we are going to capitalize on this monumental opportunity. And I know there's some of you here that are in other industries that are like, hey, I want to get on board with this stuff because I'm kind of tired of sitting in this echo chamber of groupthink where people are all talking about doom and gloom and sitting around waiting for things to happen. I want to be around women and people who are going to take control of their destiny. You're in the right place. It is time to stop sifting through empty promises and all these disjointed tactics. Try this, that'll work this time. Try that, that'll work this time. No, you are here because you need to step into your greatest potential. You need to lock in and you need to level up. Because here's what I know. Those instincts that you have that got you here, they are primed. They are ready. They are prepared. They are powerful. You are going to catapult into this next era. And remember that in economic fluctuations, money doesn't go away. It just transfers hands, especially to you Gen Xers and millennials, right? So I'm going to ask you this critical question today. Which side will you be on? And ultimately, the answer to this is not as out of your control as the world wants you to think. But it's going to require some strategic planning, some focus, and execution. And that is what we are facilitating inside of our programming at KLC, a curated incubator of high growth female entrepreneurs and leaders who refuse to sit back and let circumstances happen to them. Which brings me to the reality that many of you are brand new here, and you're like, wait, this sounds a little different than what I'm used to hearing in my Facebook group. And you're like, what is this whole situation going on? Let me tell you a little bit about me for those of you that don't know about me and about our company, KLC. I am an award-winning podcaster, speaker, and author. I've been named a Forbes Top 10 Inspiring Women Business Leaders to Watch and USA Today Top 10 Business Leaders Driving Innovation in Their Industries. My team is trusted by hundreds of aesthetic and wellness providers as the go-to leadership advisory in aesthetics and wellness. Thank you. My goal is to bring Fortune 500 experience, founder-led business leaders to teach them strategy, systems, and mindset to build a multi-million-dollar business in life. We at KLC are on a mission to help 1,000 inspiring and intentional women cross the next million-dollar milestone in their business this year. And as an industry thought leader, I feel that it is my responsibility to enroll, educate, and inspire other mission-driven women to join me on this path to achieving our highest potential. So even if you're new to this leadership stuff, if you're like, hey, what's going on here? I get it. You just hang in. You're in the right place. This is a safe space for you to learn and to grow. And like I said, I want this to be an interactive conversation with us. This week, you can expect to leave with a clear strategy for scaling your business, proven methods to attract and retain high-value clients, leadership strategies to empower your team and attract excellence, and insights to streamline systems, processes, and your client experience. And this is all underpinned by one thing here, right? Your mind, your ability to lead through uncertainty, and your ability to embrace your role as a visionary CEO or a people leader to ignite transformation in your business. So if you're constantly second guessing yourself in your business, this is probably the leadership pattern that is holding you back. And I see this so often. We're seeking external validation instead of trusting our own expertise. And it might not feel like this is a mistake because you're trying to be thorough, right? You're doing your research, you're making sure you have all the information before you act. But what ends up happening is that we're scanning and asking and taking in, 60,000 messages a day? How do you even, to Stacy's point, keep up, right? And so what we end up doing is we start asking other people and other things and books and podcasts and groups and my favorite's the random Facebook group, and you don't even know Josephine Schmosephine, like taking advice from somebody, right? You are undermining your own authority by constantly looking for permission from somebody else. You're missing opportunities while you wait for certainty that is not going to come. There is no thing as certainty. And what we do, and by a byproduct of that, is we teach our market that we're not confident in our own expertise. And I think that this is happening so subconsciously just because of the noise around us. The longer you wait to shift this pattern, the more your business becomes reactive instead of visionary. And I've been thinking a lot about, the 600 women that we have helped cross their next $1 million milestone. And which, by the way, is my biggest flex, is their success and their results. And I find much of what I do as a business coach, learning and analyzing the practical and tactical wisdom that women who are succeeding and excelling and loving the business that they're building have. And I think what really separates leaders who thrive during uncertainty from those who struggle isn't about having answers at all. It's being comfortable with the questions. Confident leaders understand that waiting for perfect information is just an excuse to delay. So instead, they make decisions with conviction and then they adjust as they go. So I started thinking a lot about what is it that how do we okay, I can say you need to be a more confident leader. Kaeli, show up and just act like fake it till you make it. Okay, that's one thing. But I think we have to face the reality that a lot of the noise, the things that we're hearing, how many of you guys have like named your chat GPT, by the way? Like hands up and pop the name in the chat if you have, because this is like a real thing. How many of you are living on AI? This is not a bad thing. This is not necessarily, you should not be, but I literally had, and I look, that's me. And my AI came back and gave me complete wrong information about something. And I was like, wait, you're my lighthouse. You're my brain. How could you give, this is not right, right? So the information that we seek, the knowledge we seek, the people that we think are thought leaders that we're learning from, um, you know, quite frankly, there are many women in this room here today who I believe should have a voice on stage that do not. And, there's a story that I tell about a client I worked with who was on a stage at a conference. I actually met her because I was in the room. I was going to be speaking after, and I was sitting there in the room listening to her. And she was being interviewed by somebody about how she had generated $7 million in revenue in her business in 2 years. And everybody was just fiercely taking notes like, wow, what did she do? And she was talking about all the tactics and where she found the people and what EMR she used and how she set up her loyalty program and all of these things, right? And I could not, like, the people were feverishly taking copious notes. Check, get that, go check out that booth at the, in the exhibit hall. And afterward, that woman happened to call me. And I said, I saw you speak at such and such conference. What incredible success. Congratulations. And she said, actually, Kaeli, I'm calling you because while I have achieved all of this enviable success on paper, $7 million in revenue in 2 years, she said, I'm barely taking anything home. Much of the investment that I'm making into my business is leaving me with very little profit. I'm exhausted. I barely have time for my family. I barely have time for my kids when I get home. And I honestly am falling out of love with my business and I'm on the verge of burnout. And I sat and thought to myself, not that this was a scenario that I hadn't heard before. I certainly have worked with many high growth women who are like, doing the thing and get to that point where they achieve what we call accidental success. And they all of a sudden get to this this inflection point where they feel like my business is driving me. Like, who's in charge here, and get up every day and look at their calendar. And it is like you're sort of a victim to your own success. You're somebody who has to just show up and do the things without leading that strategic vision. And so often we get buried working inside of our business that we don't even have time or can't make the time to work on the business, or we forget how to, right? And so, I sat there in that moment and I thought, I wonder if the things that we're celebrating, the people that we're highlighting on industry stages, the women who are teaching us as they're leaders of something, right? Because they have achieved something great. How do we know, like, do we really know the whole story, and are we really celebrating the right people? And I don't think this woman, I thought for those other people that were in the audience taking copious notes that they were really trying to copycat a blueprint for a business that drove somebody crazy and out of love with their business, but they had no idea. And this woman is not the problem. And quite honestly, I think her success is incredible and she's achieved so much. But it makes me ask the question for myself, am I building a business that will make money at any cost? And worse, I talk to women after women who stagnates, overworked, overwhelmed, and uninspired. And they not only plateau their financial gains, but then they fall out of love with their business. Okay. And so and Tiffany, so I'm seeing in the chat, I don't trust these influencers. And I think the point is that, we are at an era where we have to go back. I think we are in a confidence crisis. We have to go back and do the work to insource our own wisdom, to remember what a real business work, like what success is for us, what we're trying to achieve here, because you can't really just pick one piece of somebody else's path and not take the entire picture with it, right? And I would love just in the chat for those of you who are here to tell me if you've been somewhere in this spectrum where you've been somebody who has built a really great business and you've gotten to a point where you're like, where am I now? What is happening? Like, am I doing what I truly love? Is this absolutely where I want to be right now? And maybe even you're 5 years in and it's totally time to recalibrate. Like, the reason I started my business 5 years ago is entirely different than the reason that I'm here now, right? And I know I have, as someone who has built my own lucrative, energizing business. I am here to reassure you that this doesn't have to be the case. You can have it all: motherhood, relationships, a positive workplace culture, strong cash reserves, time freedom, autonomy. Okay. You can do all of those things. But we have to really get clear and intentional about what we're building. Okay. So going back into this idea of, confidence and where does confidence come from? I started to think about high achieving women, and I'm seeing amen, amen, amen in the chat. And having to work through balance of life and understanding, like, that everything we're building in our life should support the bigger vision of our purpose, right? Should be part uplifting us and not be something that we all of a sudden show up to and have this exhausting, journey of building a business, which is the opposite of the reason that we built it in the first place. But I think that we lose sight of it because we do this thing. I talked about hindsight being 2020, right? And looking back and remembering what we have accomplished. And I think that we start to lose trust in our own selves. I think that we are in this sort of confidence conundrum where, we lose this sort of idea of unapologetic ambition is sort of what I think. Like, we kind of we struggle with this idea of, like, I'm ambitious and I want to achieve a lot, but then I also kind of just want to enjoy what I have. And I think that a lot of the reason that we do that is that it's this sort of subtlety of, wait, am I doing it right? A lot of comparison. I look at, my colleague maybe or a friend, and they're starting a training academy. They're opening, their next expansion or another location or adding on a new division, or they just hired 5 people. And all of a sudden we feel like we're behind. And so, as you continue, you have this innate ambition. And Krista, tomorrow we're going to talk about this emotional progress versus actual progress, right? Because sometimes the progress we're making is very much internal, and it's not so much what other people can see. It's not flashy progress, right? But as we continue to grow, I think that what I find with ambitious women is that sometimes we get too comfortable just playing small. I've felt at times even ashamed of being too ambitious, because the people around me are like, what, you have so much, like, shouldn't you just be happy with what you have, right? And I think we, especially as women, have this thing where we're like, you start to lose friends, you lose sort of camaraderie and support. And I've been there many times myself in the past decade in business. But that sort of playing small, right? As you get into bigger rooms and as the higher you grow, the fewer people that are going to be in that arena with you, and the fewer people are going to support you. And I think that's really hard for us as ambitious women. And I've realized that I don't think this serves us in our business. I think that many of the women we work with inside of our Pop Leadership Academy, especially the most high growth women with the biggest goals, they are told that they should tone it down and try to fit in. And I just want to tell you that it is, if you are somebody who's in here and you're like, it seems like the higher I climb, the lonelier it gets. that is probably true. The flip side to it is you may be somebody who's set a big goal, but you subtly find yourself eking on that sort of verge of not accomplishing it, right? Like maybe failing. What would they think? Maybe it's that imposter syndrome. I'm not sure. And so you sort of just titrate your goals back so that you don't fail. And I think that the biggest entrepreneurial biohack there is becoming really secure with being a failure. Because I think what you could say to yourself instead is, you know what? I've already won. And I know for me personally, I've become very comfortable with failure. I'd rather fall short of a big goal and see myself as a failure than lower the goals to a standard that I know that I can achieve and that I can feel like I accomplished them just so that I am a success. And I think it's less about the goals and more about the mindset of being okay with failure. And that's really what I want to talk with you guys about today over the next 5 days is this idea of how do we insource and go internal into our wisdom that we have and insource our most powerful leadership confidence to build a new framework for growth, a framework that supports us, that supports what our personal goals in, build something of impact and separate ourselves from the pack. I love, I'm seeing in here so many people that are saying, I feel frustrated with that, feel frustrated with where we are with this industry. How are we going to set this up this next era? How am I going to set myself up for success? And so that is why we are here today. So you should have received an email last or this maybe Thursday. I think it went out a Friday with a copy of your Spark workbook. I personally have printed and put my notes in here. And we're going to use this workbook to guide you through the next 5 days. And much of our sessions there's going to be different formatting. But we're going to be here interacting with you. We're going to have guest speakers here. And what we want to do is use this as your workbook for you to have during sessions. And then when you go home, some thought work and some guideposts and questions for you to answer to come back and roll into the next session. Each day, we're going to have an outline to collaborate through and then a section for action where you can do the transformational work that will become your own Spark blueprint for action over the next 90 days. So each session will layer on top of one another and will have also independently powerful relevance. So if you can't make a session, you're not going to fall behind, catch up on the replay and just jump right back in. It's no big deal. We'll make sure to send you the replays. If you have any questions at all, I have my team in the chat there. You'll see anyone with a dash KLC is a KLC team member. Shannon just chatted. Does anyone still need the workbook? You can type questions in even to me privately if you want me to answer throughout the course of the session and you want the question to be anonymous. You can chat to my team. We'll make sure that we get you whatever it is that you need. I had asked you guys, for those of you that haven't had a chance to type into the chat, how many years you've been in business. So I've been in business for 9.5, almost 10 years. And let me tell you, I have seen it all. I can assure you that whatever challenge you're facing today, I've either been through or I've coached someone through it. But I can tell you that you are ahead of the game just by being here because we are about to experience pivotal shifts in our industry and society, as we talked about, and you are going to be prepared for them. Remember that growth is not linear. Okay, it's J curve. It's a series of J curves. If you know my work, I talk a lot about that, but it flows. There are ups and downs, and the goal is not to plug a hole or plug a gap or find the next tactic or trend. The trends work because they're trends. They are here one day and then they will be gone the next. That's not our goal here. Our goal is to build something that can withstand the ups and downs, to build a business and a life of impact that can become our legacy. And if you think about it, shifts have been coming all along. There's something so powerful about the thought for many of you who have been in business for 2.5, 6, 13, 14, 15 years. Okay. I want everybody to take a minute to really think about this. Think about your grandmother. Okay. I asked the question at our our live conference. We do one big live event every year called the Alt Experience. And I asked the audience of 50 women the question, how many of you have a grandmother who built a multi-million-dollar company? And guess, of the 50 women, who, by the way, were all multi-million-dollar business owners, right? Or building toward their first million, trying to build really impactful soul-led companies. Of the 50 women in the room, guess how many raised their hand? Zero. And so, as I'm judging by the lack of response in the chat to this question here, I would venture to say most likely our grandmothers and great grandmothers did not build $1 million businesses. And probably for many of us, neither did our moms. Okay. We are literally experiencing a massive shift in domestic roles and social expectations. Literally less than 100 years ago, there were no cell phones, there were no email. I don't even think we had faxes. I don't even know if we had Thomas guides, you guys. The world has changed so fast.